Hey guys, what's up? Evilzombie here. Welcome to Evilzombies Lair. This is episode 48 of the podcast, and today I actually have a special guest with me. So we're going to go over a few things. We'll go over the introduction, then we're going to talk, with our guest, and then we're going to go over a special game that he's been making and everything that entails. We have a few questions for him, so we're going to jump into that. This game is called Dragonvault, and with me today is Frederick Blauer.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, I'm happy I could have you. I'm really excited to find out about this game, and yeah, I'm a big tabletop fan. I mean, I play Dungeons and Dragons, and it's just something I will dedicate hundreds of hours into.
Oh yeah, I think my first D&D books were Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh wow, that's
But
some heavy reading.
yeah, yeah, I mean, I couldn't understand half of it growing up, but I sure tried.
That's about where
But yeah,
everybody was.
and third edition is probably the most nostalgic for me.
Nice.
The third edition monster manual was like, I don't know, something about the art style. That was when Wayne Reynolds started kind of taking off. Am I correct in that? Around third edition?
Think so. And third edition was just a masterpiece. I loved the monster manual in third edition. The Tarrasque was just
So
devastatingly
cool.
brutal in that.
Yeah.
Now he's not as much so in 5e, but he
Got
was it
nerfed
was
a
just
little.
devastating in that.
Yeah, man.
And there's just so many interesting creatures in that. That was a big thing. I have a lot of friends that really jumped on that one. I'm more of a 5e player just because I enjoy the similarities it has to 1e.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things. It's been a little while since I played D&D, but I have looked into fifth edition, excuse me, a little bit. And yeah, it seems pretty fun. And it seems like D&D's appeal is widening a lot too. Like there's a lot of new D&D players, which is awesome. For a game that's decades old to continue to grow like that, it's pretty cool to see.
Oh yeah, it's really branching out, and then it's kind of exposing so many more people into tabletop gaming just as a whole, which I think is
Yeah.
fantastic. And your game is an interesting looking tabletop game. How would you say you would describe it?
Honestly, the best way I could describe it would be D&D poker. I didn't come up with that. Someone did that played the game when they were trying to explain what it is. Because honestly, I wanted to make a card game that was for people that don't normally play card games or tabletop games, like something that was so easy to learn that it was like you could be 3 beers in and not be a nerd like me and still grasp the concept. So it's honestly more on the lines of some kind of, yeah, D&D and Magic the Gathering meets poker. It's just kind of like you have your one deck, has all the cards in it. You don't build a deck per se. Um, it's kind of like a board game with no board in that sense. Like the deck is the adventure. So you buy the game and that's the adventure that you're playing through.
Okay, that's a pretty good description of it. And yeah, I was looking through the site, and that's actually kind of the vibe I was somewhat getting from it. D&D poker, more or less. And that's actually awesome that was the way he described it, because that's kind of how I was picturing it.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably the best way, honestly. I don't really know how to classify it, because people have asked me, uh, they'll usually say, "Is it a deck building game?" And I'll say, "No, it's not a deck building game." Like, "Oh, is it a role playing game?" I'm like, "Well, you could role play if you wanted. Like, you could, because some people will really get immersed when they play,
Yes.
but it isn't." I wouldn't consider it a role playing game, and it's not a board game because there's no board, so it's kind of enigmatic. But that's probably the best way that I could describe it.
Yeah, and then the people who want to do role play, they can if they want, but it's not like a necessary part of it for story building.
Yeah, exactly. There's not like a dungeon master or, dialogue or anything like that. But, depending on the group, some people are a little more casual, some people are a little more serious when they play. But it's definitely one of those games that you can teach someone who's at the gathering who's, maybe never played D&D, or maybe someone who had played D&D in the past, or maybe some like there have been people that have play tested the game that were really into Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone, so they come from that kind of a background. And then I play tested it with random people that aren't into any of that stuff, like not even into fantasy at all. And they were able to pick it up pretty quick, like within a couple turns. So that was like the test to see like how much of this am I taking for granted that someone's going to already know just because they know like about the fantasy genre, they understand the concepts, but it seems like just about anyone that's played can pick it up pretty easily.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. Can I pause us for just 1 second on the recording part? Okay. So you said that you started tabletop gaming back in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So how long have you been doing tabletop? Like how long ago was that?
So probably I'm trying to think the earliest, probably 2001 or 2, because the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons books I had, they weren't current. I found them in shops, and I was just collecting the different manuals back then. So those manuals were obviously a little bit older, but I'd say around 2001 or 2 is when I first started. And then, of course, Magic the Gathering was shortly after that. I think I got into Magic the Gathering around 2004 or 5. There was Yu-Gi-Oh before that, Pokemon, the classic stuff. I mean, I'm that generation. that was the thing back then, man. Every kid was just trading card games.
Oh yeah, that was the big thing. And I assume you have as vast a dice collection as the rest of us.
Yes, I do. It's funny. You think that you have enough, and then you see a new color, or and you're like, oh, but I can add another one to the family.
Like,
you know what I mean?
What's one more set?
Yeah, and you try to think of excuses to justify it, like, well, these will be the dice, for this very particular circumstance that'll arise like once a year. But like that's when I'll play with those ones. And I even got to the point where like when I was playtesting Dragonvault, I'd want to have like different colored dice for like each of the champions, like, okay, you get the green ones here, you get the blue ones, like, so we got to have a set for all of them and, a separate set for the encounters. Like you only need 6-sided dice to play Dragonvault. But the thing is, I like to use 12-sided and 8-sided to track damage because the champions usually have between 7 and 11 toughness. So you can use a D12 or a D8 depending on the character. So I find that more fun than using D6 for everything. But you only really need D6 for the game.
Okay, so they don't have to have a special set of dice, but it doesn't hurt because it's just a little more fun, a little more accurate.
Yeah, especially like if you're going to be playing Dragonvault, let's say you have a group together, you're probably going to bring your own champion, I would imagine. I mean, you can do random champs, which is really fun. In fact, I do random champs more than actually choosing them beforehand. But I would imagine if you knew people were playing, you'd probably bring your champion, you'd probably bring your dice to roll, so you would have your own set, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, I understand wanting to play at random. That's how I play Smash Brothers, random every time.
It's fun, man.
Oh yeah.
Because you got to adjust your play style depending on who you get.
It really makes it where you have this situation, you have to figure out how to deal with it. It makes it a little more lively.
Yeah. Luckily, it doesn't seem like there's been champions that people have been like, oh man, I got that one again. Like it seems like because I did a lot of playtesting. Yeah, I did a lot of playtesting to balance out the champs as much as I possibly could. And it seems to me that they're pretty balanced enough to where when you do random champs, it's not like, oh, I got Tom, so I'm gonna lose. Like, you know what I mean? It seems pretty even, and the win rate seems to be pretty even so far. So that was like one of the more challenging things to do in creating the game was I wanted every champion to be cool, and I wanted them to have just as much of a chance of winning, so to where people didn't feel like, disappointed if they got this one, or like, oh, well, you got Vorix, he's so much better than everyone. Like I didn't want it to be like that.
Yeah,
and Vorix was a bit OP at the start.
Yeah, where everybody can kind of just hold their own and bring something else to the table. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And we'll have a lot more champions. We have a lot more planned that we'll be releasing. So we want to have, I don't know if you're a fan of Overwatch at all. It's not really the same genre at all.
I played a
But
little bit of it.
yeah, the thing that I do love about that game is the sheer variety of heroes is like all over the map. Every possible play style, every look. Like that's where I want to be with Dragonvault in the future, is just have such a huge plethora of champs. So people, when they bring their champs, unless you're doing random, they'll be like, oh, wow, you got this champion from, oh, that was from the second expansion. Oh, you got this one, oh, I haven't seen that one in a while. Like I want there to be a very large selection.
That's going to be fun because that's going to introduce a lot of interesting play styles. I'm really curious to see how if people do tournaments with this and see how that goes.
The tournaments are going to be wild because there's a lot of random mechanics because the amount of dice rolling with the traps and everything. It can get wild, man. You can have a solid strategy and you can still have something happen. Like this is one of those games. That's why I compare it to poker, because it's like sometimes in poker you can be a really good poker player, but you just get a bad hand. Like that can happen. You can be the champion that just draws the gold dragon on turn one. I've seen it happen. It's not common, but I've seen it happen. Or you could be the champ that pulls the Jin at the perfect moment, and then you get a healing potion after that, and like it seems like you're floating above the material realm. Like that also happens. So there's enough randomness to where tournaments I feel like would be really fun. They would be really they would be casual, I feel like, because you could be new to the game and you could probably still win a few rounds. You might not know what you're doing, so you probably won't win as much as someone who was really like studying the game. But I mean, there's enough randomness to where you could just show up and not feel like Magic the Gathering tournaments where if you suck at Magic,
That's
you
intense.
just get stomped, man. Just one loss after another. I remember when I was new to Magic, that was a steep learning curve.
Yeah, that's brutal if you try and do a tournament early on.
And that's what I did. I'm like, oh yeah, everyone does this every week. Let's do it. Oh no. It was like 3 turns in, I'm dead. I'm like, okay.
I had some friends that got really into it.
Yeah. And I love Magic. I absolutely love that game. Even though I created Dragonvault to specifically solve the biggest problems that I had with Magic, which were a trend I started noticing with Magic was people would find broken card combinations and everybody would build that deck, or there'd be like 2 or 3 really broken decks, and then they would ban a card, and then you'd have to go buy the new cards for the new broken combination. And it seemed like people weren't, at least in my circle, even really making their own decks anymore. It was just like, oh, here's the 5 decks everyone knows. Which one did you bring tonight? And I'm like, oh, that's not fun.
Yeah, it gets broken like Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah. And then they got to ban cards left and right because it seems like they just throw them in and then wreck the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And you're out a lot of money because the cards cost so much.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to have a viable deck to play, and you don't want to just lose immediately. So then you sink $200 into this deck, and then that one's banned. It's like you got to spend a lot.
Yeah, I guess the point at some point with some of these games where it just gets to be part of the collecting, where you have to make sure you have the entire right stack. It doesn't even become actual game at that point. It's mostly just, I prepared a little better for you in this exact scenario. So it's more like chess, I guess.
Yeah.
All strategy, not really
aspect.
any random. The random is so much fun. Like when you roll a nat 1 in any tabletop game,
yes,
then that introduces the oh crap moment to the game that just makes it alive.
I'm very much a fan of that, and I find it to be more realistic because when you're in a battle in real life, there's so many variables. Your foot placement, you were turned slightly too far to the right that time, or you have weather and you have terrain. So the randomness makes sense, at least in my mind. If I'm fighting a monster and I go to swing my sword, it's not really that simple. There's all these different factors that are going to weigh into whether that hit was well placed or not, or whether I hit a piece of the monster's armor that was more, protected. Even though you don't do combat per se in Dragonvault. But just the randomness aspect, it mainly comes into play with the traps and some of the encounters. Um, Probably the best example would be the succubus encounter, because she can be good or bad depending on your roll. So if you roll a 1 to a 3, she attacks you and you lose a card. But if you roll 4 through 6, you get to choose someone for her to attack on the table. So that's when you're praying to get that high roll, because you're like, I do not want to get screwed over right now. And so there's a lot of cards and mechanics like that in the game.
That's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what happens with parties and friends are all playing this together. Just because everyone likes to screw with each other and mess everyone else up, and it just brings a lot of joy to it.
Oh, it is absolutely incredible. And, who knows? I'm not trying to end any friendships here, but it really is fun to watch people just get savage. I've noticed, like, the first game, people will be pretty nice. They're still learning the rules. They got their mercenaries in their hand, but they don't want to use them on each other because they're kind of playing it safe. But I noticed, like, game 2 gets pretty wild, because then they're like, okay, you know what? I'm coming after you guys. And game 3 is the most savage. Always by game 3, people are warmed up, and it is just mercenary time, left and right. I've noticed people are way more savage. And the good thing about using mercenaries is if you kill an opponent's champion, you get to loot their hand. So you get to take a card of your choice, and that can be huge in this game, because if they got the relic card, that counts for 3 treasures. So that's like the best card in the game that everyone wants to have. So it's much more interesting when there's mercenaries being played, because damage starts getting dealt here and there. People start dying. I've seen games of 8 players where everyone died, but one, and he won just because he was the last one standing. And I've seen other matches where like no one died, or only like one person. So there's a whole range of possibilities, but definitely when people are more savage with the mercenaries, usually things get a little more crazy damage wise.
Well, it's definitely going to bring a lot of fun arguments and a lot of frenemies to the table, I can imagine.
Oh, frenemies for sure. You can play teams though. I wrote the card text in such a way to where it implies that that is a thing you can do. For example, on the food card, it'll say heal 3 damage from a champion. From a champion. It can be anyone. You can heal yourself, or if you're teamed up, like we had a game that was 8 people, and it was 2 people on each side of the table, and they were like we call the Dragonvault doubles. And we were healing each other with potions and things, and it was a lot of fun. So you can play that way. You can do teams. If you do like 3 and 3, it can get a little crazy, because you can like triple merc people and stuff. And so it's still fun though, but it gets even more chaotic if you do it that way.
Yeah, I can imagine having the Naruto tag team style play. That'd be a little hectic.
Yeah, especially if like one guy dies or whatever, and there's like 2 people on one side of the table and like 3 on the other side. It's really hard to come back from that, but doubles is a little bit easier. So I found that to be the funnest way to do teams is doubles, like 2, 2, 2 or whatever, depending on how many people you have there.
Yeah, it keeps it simple enough, but adds a little bit extra spice. That could be fun.
Yeah.
Now I just need to get friends.
Yeah, it's and it's kind of awkward because it's 2020. I mean, where I was at, we locked down pretty hard. I'm in Washington, so we were hit first with coronavirus. We locked down really soon, and we stayed locked down for a couple months, and then we opened up for a while. So then I was doing play testing again when we were able to have the gatherings, but now we're locked down again. So it's like, when you're able to have the groups, but here's the thing, it's way easier to find a group to play because there's no learning curve. With D&D, it's like, okay, do you got your player's handbook? Like, do you have your character made? There's steps you got to take to join. Yeah, to join a group. With Dragonvault, it's like, can you read? All right. Like, that's pretty much all you need to know. Just pull the card and read it. So anyone can play. So it's easier to find a group because they don't have to be hardcore geeks. And I say that lovingly because I am one.
Oh, same here.
But yeah, you don't have to be.
Yeah, this is probably gonna be something that my family will play during the holidays. I mean, I have relatives that wanted to do tabletop games with me that come over every once in a while, but it's hard to get them to sit and listen to what some of the rules are for D&D. So this is going to be a great
Oh, I bet.
opportunity.
Yeah, I bet. I don't know if you ever played Baldur's Gate back in the day
Oh
on
yeah,
PC. Yeah,
that
man,
was
I
fun.
loved those games.
Baldur's Gate was awesome.
Yeah, and it was a huge inspiration for me s- since that time, but even now when I was making Dragonvault, because I knew that I wanted the hero portraits to be, portrait style like they were in the old Baldur's Gate, where you could create your hero and you had all the different portraits. I absolutely loved that. I wanted the art to fill the card, and I wanted the art to be a focus. So that was damn near the most fun part of creating the game, was coming up with the different champions and watching them sort of come to life through the artwork of our very talented artist Kyle Punk. He's an awesome guy from South Africa, super talented artist, super chill guy, and we worked on every single card of the game together. He did all the art.
Yeah, the art's something I really liked. I looked a long time on throughout the whole site and just kind of admired the art throughout everything I could find. That was actually very well done. So he does fantastic work.
Yeah, he's and he already had some great stuff on his portfolio, but man, he even went an extra step with this stuff. Like,
Oh yeah, he
we
blew it
were
out of the
chatting,
water.
and yeah, I was blown away when I got the very first portrait. The very first piece that was done for the game was Morgana, and I couldn't believe how lifelike she looked. I was like, I'm looking at a real person. That's what it felt like for me. You create a character on paper and you're kind of imagining what they might be like, and they feel kind of real to you, but there's an added level of realism when you see an artist that can paint an expression in the way that he can. I was like, what is she thinking right now? Like, that's the connection I felt to that art piece. It was like looking into a window and now there was someone on the other side. So definitely from that point on, I was just so beyond stoked. Like, every single day making the cards, it took us a few months, but it was so much fun. And I can't wait to get him back on the project for the expansion.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. I'm definitely excited to sign on for that because artwork is something that I've actually always just really enjoyed seeing in different projects. Like I would get players' guides from old video games, basically just to look at the artwork that they had throughout them.
Same.
Some people just really enjoy that. It's fun, and
Well, and back then when the graphics were kind of,
that's the
the
best we
artwork was
had.
kind of the best, most immersive.
That's the best we had to really imagine what they looked like, right? But
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back into art in a second. But you were mentioning like Baldur's Gate and some other games that were kind of influences for you. What other kind of media or games, books, stories that you heard were influences for Dragonvault?
Well, early on, we're talking way back. No, I'm not that old, but I'm 28. So I sound like I'm 38 or 48 because I started very young getting into this sort of thing. So I guess I just remember a lot because I got involved really early. It was all about dinosaurs in Jurassic Park until I read The Hobbit. And
That's a good one.
I read The Hobbit when I was 7, and um, that was my first, I guess, long chapter book that I had ever read. And I was absolutely captivated by that book. And from that day on, I still love dinosaurs, but I mean, it was all about fantasy from then on. Like, dinosaurs was cool because it felt like a different world, but with fantasy it's truly limitless because you can create anything and you can put dinosaurs in fantasy. So it's just a win-win.
Yeah, we had
And
actually kind of a similar upbringing. Love dinosaurs, boxes of it, and The Hobbit actually was also my first major fantasy book, so I completely understand you
awesome.
on that. I'm right there with you.
It was so good.
It's fantastic. That book is so well paced, and it really does kind of paint a good picture for the fantasy realm.
Yeah, agreed. It still probably is my favorite book to this day. I mean, The Lord of the Rings is really good, but in a different way.
Yeah.
I'd say The Hobbit is the best standalone. Like you just pick up a book and you want a good story from start to finish with lovable characters, an immersive world that feels real. That's what The Hobbit was for me. So after The Hobbit, it opened the door to everything else. Um, the card games like Magic, D&D, the video games. I was a big fan of Baldur's Gate, like I said, including the Dark Alliance games on PS2. Those are different, and some people are kind of split on that. They'll pit the two against each other. But personally, I love both for different reasons.
Yeah, well, I don't think I've actually played those ones yet.
Baldur's Gate, Dark Alliance.
Yeah, I have not played Dark Alliance yet.
Oh man, it's more like a Diablo style top down
I played
dungeon crawl type of thing.
I played the Neverwinter Nights games. I played the heck out of those.
Yep, classics.
And of course, the Diablo series has always been a big favorite of mine.
Yeah, Diablo, excellent. Elder Scrolls, when I first played Morrowind, I couldn't even believe how big the world seemed
yes.
back then, and then Oblivion and Skyrim. So yeah, those were definitely big influences for me. I'm still a huge gamer. I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 right now, and it's phenomenal. I'm on my third playthrough. You can only do the first act because it's early access, but I'm a third character in, and I'm still going. So I just can't get enough of that game. So yeah, I think that would about sum it up. The Lord of the Rings universe and tabletop gaming, video games.
That's probably where a lot of us are also with how we kind of fall in love with the genre.
Yeah. Oh, and I did want to clarify because someone was kind of joking around with this today. Voryx, he's not an Argonian. Okay. What's funny is I created that character, or I should say the race that he belongs, actually before I ever even played Elder Scrolls. It was a long, long time ago that I came up with his lore. Like his lore is 17, 18 years old. And at that time, Morrowind was had just released or was about to release when I was formulating his backstory. So not that I mind, people can make Argonian jokes. Like I love Argonians too, but I was kind of chuckling at that. I'm like, oh yeah, we got an Argonian in here. We got to have the honorary Argonian. But anyway.
Okay, so that does add a little clarification. That was something I noticed on him also. I just kind of looked at him like, is that an Argonian?
Yeah, where's the Khajiit now? We got to have a cat in there.
I love all the different races, and they're a fun race, so I didn't have any complaints on it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's the word? That's a nod to my dinosaur upbringing, lizard men or I should say, yeah, I mean, I guess he's called an Orontai, which is basically like a sub race of lizard folk. So they're kind of their own thing, but you could call them lizard people. They kind of have that dinosaurian or like draconian type of look. So it is kind of a small nod to, me obsessing about velociraptors when I was a kid.
Okay.
The T-Rexes.
Yeah, so it's a little something that just kind of brought back that love of that media genre and those types of movies. That's fun because it's kind of just a mixture of so many things that you just loved growing up.
Yeah. I like to draw from as many sources of inspiration. I mean, I'm really big into history, mythology. So there's also those influences too. But the thing about fantasy that I love so much is it doesn't have to be bound to anything. There's a lot in the lore of Dragonvault. There are a lot of historical parallels, I should say. But then there's other points that just completely veer off into an unrecognizable direction. So, and that's the fun of it.
Yeah, so it has its own original lore. People won't be able to go, oh, it's like that. It's going to be its own thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. So that's going to be a lot of fun to explore the lore. I'm actually excited about that a lot. And is this a game that you and your team really kind of enjoy playing together over and over again? Do you guys play it all the time together?
Yeah, fairly often. And the reason why it has such high replay value is your strategy is going to depend on which champion you're using, for one. So like if you're playing a tank character like Ulrich, you're probably going to um, you're going to be able to take more damage. So there might be some times where you draw a dragon and you might not want to pay the dragon. You might want to take the hit because you can, for example. Whereas with some other characters, that's not always as viable, but then you have another plan of attack. Like if you're Avidel, you're going to be better against traps. So it just depends on how you're playing the game. So you have your strategy, whether you're trying to hold on to your treasure more and maybe not play your mercenaries, whether you're trying to play more aggressive to knock out other champions and take their stuff. But it all depends on the order of cards being drawn from the adventure deck. And that's where the fun happens, because depending on when the dragons are being pulled and what dragons or which encounters, like for example, when the Phoenix gets pulled, that's always a huge wild card because the Phoenix can outright destroy you if you fail enough rolls. So depending on if Phoenix gets pulled early game or late game, that's a big one. Sometimes if Phoenix gets pulled late game, it gets ugly because people are already damaged up, and then the Phoenix just starts slinging fireballs around, and then it gets crazy. So that's what makes the game so fun, is you never know really how it's going to turn out because of the order of the cards being drawn and the order of the cards being played. So you can play over and over. I think the longest I played Dragonvault was like, oh man, several hours. And they had been playing for several hours before I showed up. So that group had played a total of, I think it was 6 or 7 hours of Dragonvault. And
nice.
What was kind of funny is I think only one person won twice. And it was like everyone else, like it was a big group, what had won once or whatever. So I mean, it was just wild. Like every turn, it wasn't like one person dominating every turn, it was, but they were able to play so many games in succession because every game was different.
This is going to be a dangerous game for me. Every time I start a game of Skyrim, I lose 500 hours of my life magically.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm the type of guy that goes off on the side quests, and then
this is gonna be a
by the
game.
time you get to the main quest, you can just one hit Alduin because it's just like, or what or like Dragon Priest slap.
It's like
It's like, yeah, I've been doing side quests.
Like they thought they were a threat.
Yeah, sit down, World Eater.
Oh, this is gonna be fantastic because me and several other friends are definitely addicts when it comes to different games. Like we can just kind of buckle down and just lose ourselves in it. My wife's actually worse than me at it. She doesn't play games because she's so bad with losing herself in it. So I'm actually excited to show her this.
Oh, dude, hell
it's
yeah!
a little scary what's going to happen with that.
It's one of those games you can kind of chat while you're playing too, if you want. Like you could make it a social thing where you're just hanging out, you're having some beers, you're catching up, but you're also playing. Like there's definitely that approach, and most of the Dragon Ball games tend to fall into that category. But then I've played with other players that are way more serious, like they watch the deck, every card, and they're damn near like card counting. Like I knew one guy and he was good. He probably won the most despite the random factor. He would usually come out on top because he would be like, okay, that's the second green dragon that's been pulled. There's one more in the deck. Okay, and one red dragon's been pulled. So my chances of pulling a dragon here are this. Like he was really into that. So there are definitely those type of players.
Oh yeah, every game that has cards or any type of system that can possibly be interfaced into it, someone's going to figure it out and try their best to master it, but it can only go to some degree at least.
Sure. I look forward to that. I look forward to people, coming up with strategies that become well known. I think that'll be a lot of fun. And another thing that we want to be kind of an experience is people creating their own adventures. So for example, right now we only have the one set out, but eventually we'll have more. But even with just the one set, someone might say, well, I'm going to put 2 gold dragons in this one. So we're playing a Dragonvault deck tonight that has 2 gold dragons instead of 1. Or we're going to play a Dragonvault game tonight and there's no food in the deck, or no healing potions, or double the mercenaries. Like you can mess with the proportions if you want. You can create custom decks, and then I would imagine as the community grows, there will be favorites. You know, they'll be like, oh, well, this is a really popular style. We're doing this alternate deck here. And then that could almost become, you know, if it's something people are playing, we might even put it on the website. Like, here are some popular fan made decks that you can build. You need 2 copies of the game to do it, or 3, or depending on the proportions.
That's nice.
And this is how you build it. Like, I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, to see what kind of different play styles people come up with, just to kind of add into the replayability of it. And that's great because that adds way more into the replayability. And with this game, going into another question real quick, how long would you say you've actually been working on the project Dragonvault, as long as you've known that this is the project you're working on?
Oh, man.
So I know you mentioned like years and years ago you started working on characters and their lore, but how long have you been actually working on it knowing that this game was your goal?
Well, it's okay. So this is it's almost like asking, at what point did a dog become a dog versus a wolf? You know what I mean? Like, it was a long process, an evolutionary process. And at any one point, it's like, where are we in the journey? Because the first card game that I created was in 2002, and it was called Realms of Chaos. And I remember it was all hand drawn and everything, and the cards looked hilarious. But some of the aspects in that game carried over. But it took a while for it to become what it is. The older incarnations of the game were a little more duel focused, like more combat focused.
Okay.
It turned into a more casual type of dungeon crawl in about early 2019, was probably when it started to take shape as that. And then by late 2019, I had the game virtually completed. And then it was just a matter of just play testing it over and over again. And, you know, new cards got added and new rules and things and new mechanics. So then it became truly Dragonvault. So I'd say about a year and a half that I was like, okay, this is a recognizable form.
So
predecessor, I should say.
This is all the polish phase where you're making it into what you want it to truly be, using all those different aspects.
Yes. But like Vorix, for example, I brought him up. Vorix was a character in a card game I created in 2003. So it's like certain characters are old as hell. Like, they've been in this journey for a long time.
And are you going to use some of your past games to kind of hint at them and throughout the lore, just kind of as a tribute to them, or like for people who might have played them before?
Well, most of the people that played them back then were just my friends at school, because we didn't publish these games.
Oh, okay.
Dragonvault is the first one that's being published and brought to the public. So no one would recognize those old games. But I would say that the world that was starting to develop, I will draw from that source material and expand on it. In my mind, it's all the same thing. You know, it's just a Hydra with multiple heads. So I'll probably make a more combat-focused, more Magic the Gathering style dueling type of game still in that same world, and still use some of the characters, which I think would be a lot of fun. But, you know, first things first, it's been crazy getting this thing made, and it almost didn't happen, to tell you the truth. This year was just all over the place.
Yes, it was. And good job. Props for keeping everything going, even despite 2020 just being 2020.
Yeah. I mean, we formed the business like right before the pandemic. Like, it was like in January where we were like, let's do this thing.
That can be scary.
And then it was like, nice. Yeah. And then we're like, oh, you heard of that coronavirus? Yeah, I heard a couple things about it. I hope it doesn't come here. And then, oh, well, we're going to go to Comic-Con and we're going to promote the game. Oh, no. Comic-Con didn't happen. So then it was, you know, sheer chance that we found Kyle to do the art, because I was reaching out to people online, because we were going to go to the con, shake hands, meet people, try to find the right artist. We just got lucky, you know, and I'm glad it happened that way. But with COVID, my workplace shut down. So then I didn't have work. So then there was that whole thing. So like it was crazy. But here we are. It's so close to being done. It's with our printers now, and we've expedited as much as we possibly can. But it's almost done. We're so
Oh,
close.
that's got to be extremely exciting. I can just imagine how nerve-wracking it'd be just to be waiting for it.
Yeah, we thought that we were going to have the game printed and available in June. That was before the COVID thing happened. And then it was like, oh, at the very latest, it'll be like August. And then that didn't happen. It's just been like one thing after another. And then we were ready to do our Kickstarter, but the Kickstarter kind of flopped because it was just, who knows? There's so many factors. You can't pin it all on one thing.
Yeah, there's a
But
lot of things that go into trying to make one of those successful.
yeah, exactly. And it was in a time where people didn't like. How are you going to get people to invest
When nobody
in
has
a
a job.
Kickstarter when they're not working? Like so many people I knew were like, yeah, I don't have a job right now. I don't have a job right now. I would pledge, but I'm not working. So it's like, man, it's like everyone's home. So it's like they want something to do, but they got to have money to do it. So it's like, it was rough, which is why we just said, you know what, we're going to self-publish through our website. Like we just took matters into our own hands, and we're like, we didn't get our Kickstarter money, so we're just going to blood, sweat, and tears this thing. I made it my full-time job. Like literally every single day, I work on the game, I promote the game, I expand the lore for the game. It is all I talk about, all I think about. Like it's my life now.
Nice. And that just shows how much of a love letter this is to the whole genre from you. And
Yeah, stay alive.
actually, kind of related to my next question. What are you hoping to accomplish with Dragonvault, with the whole tabletop genre? Like, what are you hoping to accomplish in this genre with it?
What I wanted to accomplish was I wanted to create a community that doesn't have any of the nasty gatekeeping. The world is getting better with that anyway. I feel like with tabletop gaming, like it's getting more accepting. It's getting easier to get into these groups. I want to continue that. I want to take it a step further and have something for people that want to get into tabletop games but are a little intimidated. I've had so many people tell me when I started promoting Dragon Ball, they were like, "Wow, well, I always wanted to get into Magic, but it was so much to learn. I'm glad
Mm-hmm.
this game looks like I could play it." Or, "Man, I really wanted to get into D&D, but I couldn't find a group that wanted to play as much as I did or as often as I did." So, like, those are the people I'm targeting. I want to have something for them. People that they love fantasy, but they're maybe not the lore masters of the world, but they still want something they can love and get into. So that was like my goal with this. And I feel like I've created something for those people. And I do think that a lot of people will want to be involved because of the friendliness and the casualness of the game. So there won't be as much nasty like, oh, your cards are terrible. Oh, I spent $300 on my deck. That kind of crap. I have much respect for trading card games, but
That's
it's not really a part of Dragonvault.
yeah. That's something I'm looking forward to doing it because it's hard to get into Magic. I understand that completely. I agree with you entirely on that.
And the one thing that I like the most about Magic is besides the lore, which is pretty nice sometimes. I like Zendikar and depending on the set, like Dominaria and stuff. Like certain worlds I like more than others, but I really like the lore and I like the collector's aspect. So there is still that aspect to it, and that is something I do want to bring to Dragonvault in the future. Not so much um, in the sense of Magic the Gathering, where everyone's trying to get this rare card so they can win because it's so powerful, but having maybe alternate heroes or alternate versions of cards or new cards that aren't necessarily game breaking but still fun that maybe release in like little booster packs or something. Like there still will be a collector's aspect to this game that will flourish, but it won't be in the sense that it's pay to play. Like you buy this $100 rare online, you're going to win at all the Dragonvault get-togethers now because you have some potion that heals you for 7 and everyone else's heals them for 5. I don't want it to be necessarily like that. Who knows where it'll go in the future as far as we might, there might be a card that gets released that accidentally just like breaks the game, but I would hope that we don't have to do a magic thing where it's like, this is banned, I would hope we would just counteract that with new cards so it could be an ever evolving pool that you can build your decks out of. And because players will be in control of what decks they're making, it'll be pretty hard to break the game, I think. That's my hunch. Because if there's a card that comes out that everyone's like, okay, that encounter was way, way too ridiculously hard, no one ever survives that, okay, then they don't put it in and they just homebrew their own Dragonvault deck and they take this encounter from the first expansion, these two from the second, these heroes, all heroes will be designed to be compatible with the game. So, they could use whatever heroes they want. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm going. I want it to be a community with not a lot of gatekeeping, something that has new content and new lore, continually expanding the world, and that the players get to determine what kind of a game they want to have. I want them to have the power to decide what kind of a game night they want. And so that's going to be the big thing. Home brewing Dragonvault decks. I am prophesying this into existence. That's going to be the main thing, I think, with this game.
I think, on 1 second, my daughter just knocked on the door. Okay, we're going again. So you're saying you really like to have goblins and half-orc style characters?
Yeah, I would. Right now, the mercenaries there's an ogre, an orc, and some goblins. And there's lore reasons for that. They're kind of tied in with the temple that you're running through, the Dragonvault. But I also like the idea of having a playable goblin or orc, so that'll probably be something you see in the future as well.
Well, that's going to be delightful to see how people like to play through that, because I'm a big fan of role-playing at the table. Not everyone's into it, but me personally, I'll definitely be trying to do different character voices for that.
Yeah.
That's going to be something fun to see how people go through these different, like the different races.
Yeah, we have, so with Dragonvault, there's an elf character. Avidel is an elf. Tom is a halfling. Vorix is an Arontai. And then we have the rest are humans. And there's a skeleton who is Morgana's champion. So he's kind of like, if you play as Morgana, you also get to play with Victor, who's an undead. So they're like a team.
That's fun.
Yeah, but eventually there'll be more races. I already have a dwarf character created. In fact, he was supposed to be in this version of the game, but we couldn't fit him in with the budget, sadly. So we had to cut a champ, and I was like, no. So I had to save him for the future.
Fun to wait.
Because I love dwarves so much.
Oh, dwarves are delightful. Yeah, that's going to be fun to see in the expansions. And so you're saying you're going to do expansions. We know you're going to kind of continue on the game with adding more things to it. What about lore books and artwork books, things like that? Are you going to release posters and different kinds of things like that?
Absolutely. In fact, we have been discussing doing posters, but we wanted to kind of talk to our community to see if that's something they want. Because, for me, I've got posters all over the place in my apartment, all over the walls. I hate having just a blank wall. So I always got something on there. But I don't know how many, like what percentage of Dragonvault fans are like, yeah, I want this art on my wall. If there's people that want that, we will make that happen because we got plenty of art for it. We've even got cosplay. We could turn into posters or, desktop wallpapers or whatever else. So we've definitely got material there, just depending on if that's something people want. And as for lore books, I absolutely do plan on releasing lore. I'm kind of going back and forth between if I want to post snippets of it and sort of release it in chunks, or if I want to, have a big,
Like a massive
you know,
compilation.
yeah, because I feel like the time it'll take me to write a big lore book will be so long that people will be like, okay, I'm tired of waiting. So I might break it up and kind of be like, okay, this is Morgana's backstory and release that. Or, this is Ulrich's story, and then this is 20 pages of this or whatever, something that people can really delve into, and they don't feel like they have to wait 5 years for me to make the Silmarillion. More like 50 years
Oh my goodness.
with the
The children
Silmarillion,
of
you know what I mean?
Hurin.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
yeah. So more like how libraries are handled in like Elder Scrolls games, where you have several books that are like 10 pages that cover the same topic. But yeah,
Oh, that would be so much fun. Absolutely. I can see it happening like that. Yeah.
that's gonna be a fun way to collect things, because like even in those kinds of games, I'll spend countless hours just trying to stock up my library so I can read all the things.
Yep.
That's going to be a fun thing to see. And then, like artwork, you were saying you don't know how many people would like things like posters. Have you guys already considered things like a compiled artwork book of just some of the main pieces? Or
Yeah, we have done that actually already. It was part of our Kickstarter run. We had an ultimate tier. And if you pledge the ultimate tier, then you got the game and a poster and an art book. And it was all like a bundled thing. When the Kickstarter failed, there was still a lot of people that were messaging saying, well, what about my art book? And I was like, oh man, we got to make that happen. So we kind of carried that over onto the website. And for 2 months, we had it up there, and we sold out of them now. But I have a feeling we'll probably print more depending on if people, like in your instance, want it, because it's like a little hardcover book. It had a little bit of lore at the beginning, kind of explaining the setting of the game. And then it had every piece of art from all the cards. So I geek out about that stuff a lot, but I just ask the question, is it what our fans want? If our fans want it, we can make it happen. So
yeah, because by the end of it, it's probably going to
that's
be
kind of where
like
we're at.
some of them kind of thing, right?
That's always the balance, and it's just a matter of like, we almost couldn't even print the game to begin with. So like, we have had to be so frugal with everything, but so we've had to be so frugal with everything. I think there's some hot showdown going on. Okay. Where was I forgot where I was at.
Let's see. Sorry, that was a delightful distraction. I just hear a ha.
Yeah. Well, my roommate's a streamer.
Okay, I was gonna say, did Yamcha just get knocked out again?
Something.
Is there
happened.
Yamcha?
That's where I was. So we had to be very, very frugal. But as the game, becomes more popular, I don't know how popular, but as it grows, we will have the money to do more stuff like that. And I'm really looking forward to that, because I have so much that I want to share with the people that are interested. And I understand that, the majority of players aren't going to be lore hungry maniacs, but I love lore hungry maniacs, and I have so much for them. So as soon as we have a way for us to make that happen, believe me, I've had it planned since the beginning. So it's like I'm waiting to release the river and just let all of the lore be unleashed upon the world.
That's going to be just delightful to see people come up with different theories on how to make different sense of different things if they see it. And I always love to see how people pick things apart once they go through it with a fine comb.
Yeah, true. I
So much
remember
fun.
there was that kid that got famous because he corrected the Warcraft team. Remember that video? I love
Oh, that
that
was
video.
great.
I
I remember
hope that
that.
happens to me someday. I hope someone corrects me at my own shit, just so I can have that experience of like, wow, I don't even know my own lore the best anymore. That'll be an amazing day if that ever happens, and I hope it does.
Well, look at J.K. Rowling. I don't think she knows half of her lore. She just starts making it up as she goes at the end of it.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about, man. I mean, I've never been a huge Potter expert, but uh, who knows? Maybe she's just like,
She just had to
I
come up
gotta
with an
find a way to
answer
make
for
these
yeah. She
relevant.
just had to come up with an answer for the question that she didn't have think about before.
Oh, I bet. And the fans want it. They want every single detail. They want to know the exact color of this person's like bath towel when they stayed at like this friggin' B&B in this muggle town. I mean, I don't know, I'm making shit up, but it's like people get that into
She's
it.
probably
Like
gotten that question before.
probably like what's Ron Weasley's like favorite dessert or something. Maybe that's already been answered. I don't know.
Probably at some point. I mean, their Twitter's crazy. But that's just one of the fun things that comes with this because you can kind of build onto your lore later and I don't know, just kind of spice everything up as it goes and then see how people pick it apart. I just kind of enjoy
Yeah, I
reading
agree.
all that stuff. Let's see. So I was wondering also, who would you say? There's a lot of champions, and you have a lot more that are going to come out. Do you have any favorite champion? And does the playstyle change a lot? Well, you already said that the playstyle should change a little bit based on who you choose, but is it a pretty vast difference? Like you said, each of them kind of brings their own thing to the table. Do you have a favorite?
Oh man, I can't say that I have a favorite only because, man, it's like I don't have kids, but I would imagine it's like picking a favorite kid. It's just a very difficult question. But I've asked that question a lot to playtesters. What is your favorite champion? And people seem to have a lot of difficulty picking one as far as who they think is the best and even just who they like the best. I mean, I'd say definite fan favorites as far as their look and just like who they are, what kind of a character they are, would be Avidel for sure. I mean, Avidel is like a huge people choose her as far as not that they necessarily want to always pick Avidel the card to play as, but just the character is something that a lot of people really like. So she's a big one. Morgana's a big one. Um, I'd say Ulrich is another fan favorite, both because he has the highest toughness in the game.
Probably a
So
good beginner
if you're
character.
looking to just tank your way out, yeah, he's probably the easiest to start with. And then Vorix is another fan favorite because he has a regenerate ability. So every turn he heals one. So that's another character that's like it's easy to bounce back from damage. So people really like playing as him. They don't have to focus so much on rationing out their heals because they know they're going to get some of that back automatically. So he's definitely up there as well. That's probably the closest I could answer that question,
Yeah,
to be
that
honest.
also just kind of goes to show if they're having a hard time picking an actual favorite, just shows that you've done a good job in balancing out their play style because they don't have an obvious, oh, I need to pick this. It's not like Smash Brothers where you go for Fox on Final Destination.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I mean, I hope that's the case. I still might be wrong. There might be some game breaking combo that comes out later that I overlooked. I mean, who knows? I'm kind of excited, honestly, to see what people come up
if it
with.
can't be broken, someone will break it in some way, and it's going to be delightful to see how
Yeah,
they exploit it. I mean, I
exactly.
was a game designer for a bit, and I understand that joy entirely.
Hmm.
All right, so let's see. I have another question here. What about the role playing or storytelling? Is a talking character a big part of it? We kind of talked about this a little earlier. Like it can go into it, doesn't really need to. But do you have any kind of plans for storytelling in game as it's happening?
Um, it's not really that kind of game, I don't
It's just kind of
think.
playing through the
It's
scenario.
Yeah, I mean the expansions I'm planning on having based in different areas or, yeah, different locations with different lore behind it. So there's that element, like when you're playing through this adventure, certain things about it that are a part of the story. But other than that, um, that's about it. You're basically just casually going through the game and you You can make it more of an RP type of thing, or it's up to you. Like if you want to send a mercenary after someone and do your voice line as you destroy them, I mean, I'm all for that. Like get into it, but not everyone is into it.
This is going to be fun to see live streams.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That'll be a
Oh, it's
blast.
going to be delightful. And when and where do you think everything, or when and where should everything be available for people to buy when it comes out? Is it all going to be online? Is it going to come to stores?
Yeah, as of right now, it's going to be on our website only. I would like to get it in stores. It's just so expensive to do that for how small we are right now. But I do see that as a possibility, as an end goal. But as far as right now, it's going to be on our website. You can pre-order it. DragonvaultGame.com. I have it marked down $10 off still as like a pre-order special. So if you're an early bird and you want to get your name on the list and you want to save $10, now's the time. I'm going to sign every single pre-order. So if you're a collector, that's also something, there's been a few people that have told me that they bought more than one, specifically because they wanted to keep the signed one somewhere else and then, play with one of them. And I understand that this game might not blow up at all, but there is the possibility that it will. And if it is, that'll be worth many, many times more than the $20 to buy it. So like if you're a collector, I would say if you are a definite tabletop collector, buy a couple of them and stash them because they'll definitely be worth something if the game expands. But yeah, I'm going to be signing them all $10 off right now. And then we're expecting the game to be fully released in probably late winter. So January most likely is when they're going to be like available. Like you buy them and we ship them. Like we'll have them in stock. So
awesome. And I'm definitely going to have everything, all the links in the description below so people can see that. Just a reminder to everybody. So the link is going to be there for sure. And is there anything else you'd really like to plug on info?
I would say we're definitely trying to build our social media presence because of the scenario with the Kickstarter. I mean, we didn't have any marketing fund for a while, and we still hardly do. So having that social media support is huge for us. So I would say if you're interested, it's going to be Dragonvault Game on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Also on YouTube as well. Our TikTok is the newest, but but it's kind of picking up.
Yep,
so
that's how I found you.
I would say, yeah, my TikTok, I post a lot of Dragonvault stuff on there too. The Dragonvault TikTok, I kind of post to both, but sometimes TikTok will think you're impersonating. So like I had a video removed on Dragonvault because they thought that account was impersonating me. And they're like, you can't pretend to be someone. I'm like, no, that's me. Like, I am Frederick. They're like, no, you're not. So that's a little bit awkward. But yeah, I would say follow our social media. Also on our website, I post the testimonials, the cosplays, the videos, the gameplay videos. So I put the updates on there as well.
I'm sure we're going to try and see if I sorry, I lost all my words for a second there because I stuttered the whole thing away. I'm going to try and get as many people as I can over there. For sure I'm going to talk to people in the Discord about it and then post it wherever I can, but all the links are going to be in the description here. And anytime I post about or link someone to this podcast, I'm definitely going to post all of those links as well.
I appreciate that, man.
Definitely from what I've seen and what I've heard, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think me and some friends are definitely going to have a blast. So even if it becomes a big release or not, we're definitely going to get one and we're going to have fun anyways.
That's all I could want, really. To me, it doesn't matter. To me, it was never about money. It was never about any of that. It was about, I was always the dungeon master. So I wanted to just create an experience for other people. And if it's 20 people loving this game, I'm all for it, man. Like, if it's the same people buying the expansions, oh well, that's our community. So no matter what happens, it's a win-win for me.
And yeah, it's going to be a win for anybody that gets to play it because it does sound fun. So I'm actually really excited about it. And yeah, everyone, please look out for it. Go check them out on all the social medias listed. Of course, like I said, links in the description below. And thank you so much for coming on here with me. I've been so excited to get into this and be able to do the podcast with you. Sorry it took so long to get back to you on it.
Oh, it's all good, man. Life happens. Thanks so much for having me on. It was great meeting you, Christian. And yeah, I can't wait to ship your copy out, man.
Well, I'm so excited to get. Well, see, I'm probably just gonna do it right when I get paid on the 30th. I might not tell my wife about that one.
Because then she's gonna want one
I'm
too.
just gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I had this game sent to me."
Hey, whatever you gotta do.
That's how it's gonna go. I'm gonna try and get her hooked on it as much as I can, because that'll just enable. I'm gonna be an enabler with that. Then we'll be able to get more.
Yep.
I'm so excited about that. And everybody, if you enjoyed the episode, like it or dislike it. If you didn't like it, rate me however you think I did.
Don't you dare dislike it. You must support this man.
That's right. 5 stars all the way. Or else I'll have to find all of you, even though I don't know any of you.
Yep, send goblins after you.
Exactly. The Horde will find you all.
Yeah. Loktar.
And, of course, you need to email me for anything, evilzombie@protonmail.com, and I have a website now, evilzombie.net, so you can find, of course, I'm also going to do a blog about this on there, talk about everything, and you'll see links to it as well. So, everyone, thank you so much for listening, and that's the episode. I'll catch you next time.